Hi, my name is Yaneck and I'm the founder and main photographer at Wasio Faces. We photograph headshots of over 6,000 people every year. In this video, I will explain and demonstrate our approach and workflow to individual headshot sessions, as well as how we photograph high-volume headshots at business events and conferences. My wife Sasha and I have been professionally photographing weddings and portraits for over 12 years. 4 years ago, we decided to offer headshots as well, after a spontaneous event in 2016 we did in New York City. We decided to photograph people's portraits right outside Central Park for free, and that's how Wasio Faces was born. Before we go into specific workflow, let's define what high-volume headshots are. For us, it's not straight based on the number of people we photograph, because if we have to photograph 100 people in 3 8-hour days, we consider this a rather low volume engagement. However, if we have to photograph 60 people in 2 hours, then it's definitely high volume for us. So basically, it comes down to the number of people we photograph per hour or how many minutes we have per person. If we have less than 5 minutes per person, that makes it high volume for us. So let's start with the individual session. When we photograph in our studio, we always use our Westcott Flex Cine Kit 1x2, Westcott X-Drop background, Canon EOS R camera, which we tether to our laptop using either USB cable or wireless air direct from Tether tools. Using Flex Cine allows me to precisely adjust the light to where I want it to be and see the results instantly. Lighting ratios are also easily seen. Constant light reduces the pupils so we can see the iris in all the beauty, and that's, makes this light so special. Now, here is our workflow that we follow for individual sessions in our studio. The workflow always starts when the client books the session online. Right after they book the sessions, we call them and ask them about the professions and how they want to be portrayed in their headshots. So after this conversation, we clear, what kind of headshots we want to produce for that specific client. Then the session happens, the client comes to our studio, and we photograph our client. And we always tether from our camera to our laptop so we can instantly transfer those files from our camera to our laptop. We review and make the final selection with our clients right during the session. So by the time the client leaves our studio, we have the final photos selected for that client. After the session is done, we retouch those photos, and after a few days, we send those photos to our client and ask for a review. So basically, that concludes the whole workflow for individual sessions. So now that we know the workflow, let's see how we shoot it. So now our studio is all set up for individual session. When our client comes, we always have the Cineflex already set up, and individual sessions we always photograph with the Westcott Cineflex. Now in terms of the camera, I photograph with the EOS R with the lens 70-200 f2.8. I have the Westcott trigger on my camera, and I also have the air direct transmitter, and I have it mounted on the L bracket from Pro Media gear. So when I do individual session, to kind of reduce the number of cables, I usually photograph with the wireless tethering, the air direct from Tether tools. And then that camera is tethered into my laptop, which is right there. And I have my laptop sitting on the Tether tools aero table. And I have that laptop also connected to my monitor, so that when I review the photos during the session with my client, we can be, separated instead of, putting, being too close together, especially in the times like, now with the COVID-19 issue. So, Sasha, come on over and let's do some photography here. So in terms of the lighting position, I follow Peter Hurley's triangle light setup. So I have 3 1x2s from the Cineflex from Westcott, and I kind of have in the triangle, but this one, the main light here is at an angle. This one is usually vertical, and this is our fill from the bottom. So in terms of the lighting ratios, the two on the top usually are the same power or almost the same power, and the one below is usually at half the power. Now, few things to kind of be aware of when you photograph in this setup, or in general when you have the lights, the Cineflex set up on your model, or later on when I show you when we have the FJ400 with the strip boxes, is the person has to be really in the sweet spot of the light. So Sasha, for example, her face cannot be too forward into the lights, or it cannot be too far back. So let's start with the issue of the face being a little bit too forward. So you're gonna come as close as possible, and then you're gonna push your face, yeah, perfect, okay. So I'm gonna take this photo of Sasha first, and look at me, perfect. Okay, so this is Sasha's photo when she pushes her face a little bit too much forward, and that's why you start to see this kind of deeper shadow in her eye sockets, and that's when you know that your client or the person that you photograph is a little bit too much forward, into the lights. Now let's do something, Sasha. So if you can just a little bit go back, a tiny bit go back, a tiny bit, even more. Okay. So now, obviously, she moved a little bit more back, so I'm gonna open up the aperture. Before I was shooting at f5. Right now, I'm gonna move it to f4 and give me a little bit of a smile there. Perfect. Okay, so this is just a test, so just to show you what happens when the light, when she goes too far, too far back, and basically the light becomes too flat. There's really no gradation from the front of the face to the side. So this is a more forgiving mistake than the one in too much forward, but it still makes the light a little bit too flat. So we want to be in the sweet spot. So Sasha wants to be in the real sweet spot, so that there's a nice fall off on the side of her face, but at the same time she doesn't move too much forward. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to f5. And Sasha, come a little bit forward toward me. Perfect. So I always educate my clients that they have to push their forehead forward. And then, this light, I kind of maneuver until I see where's the kind of the sweet spot, the same here, the angle. And then this one kind of like to see where it is. There's really no science to it. You have to really maneuver it. And that's the kind of the beauty of the constant light, that you can see exactly what the light does. But the most important thing that the main light is at the angle. This one is vertical, and then the fill is just below, below them, pointing up. Okay. So Sasha, two things we're going to be doing. We're going to be pushing your forehead forward like a turtleneck, right? And then slide your chin down. And the last thing, the second thing we're going to be doing with your lower eyelids, I want you to give me a little bit of tension, under your eyes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now I need to see you actually a tiny too much forward. So a tiny step back. Perfect. Okay. Let me I'm gonna one more time do a test shot, just making sure that everything looks good. Perfect. Okay. So this will be just I do always one test shot when I photograph a client, making sure that this looks good, and this actually looks good. And there's less of the. Let me show you the one before. Okay, so you can see that this was when she was too much forward. There's more shadow than here now. That the eyes have a lot more pop in this sweet spot. Okay, so I think we are good. I'm gonna select on the last photo. I make any adjustments in capture one I needed, going forward, and basically now we can start shooting. And I shoot slightly from below, just so that I have the. When Sasha brings the chin down, I'm still a little bit below her, okay? And so Peter told me this some time ago, that you want to, when you photograph somebody and you see that headshot, you want to, the people looking at the headshot, they want to feel a little bit shorter than the person that they're looking at, or the photographer's a little bit shorter than the person they photograph, okay? So, Sasha, so give me, perfect. Push your forehead a bit more forward and tiny step back. Just push, that's perfect. Now, give me a little bit more tension between your eyebrows on this one. Perfect. A little bit less. Give me more tension on the corner of your lips. Perfect. Now, give me a face like you're a little bit suspicious on this one. Oh, that's way too suspicious. Okay, that's perfect. Now, flare your nostrils for me a little bit more. Are you flaring? Yeah? Perfect, perfect. Now move your ears a little bit more for me. Not your eyebrows, just your ears. Just no, without your hand, without no hands on. Move a little bit this way for me. Perfect. Fantastic. Turn your face a little more this way. Always eyes on me. Perfect. Fantastic. Chin down a bit more. Chin down. Perfect. Now give me a pleasant look, like you're Snow White. You know, just push your forehead more to me. Push it, push it, push it, and slightly chin down. Perfect. Hold it. Now move your feet a little more this way. Even more this way. Perfect. You're gonna put your weight on the right foot, the other right. Okay, perfect. And then turn your face a little more this way. Fantastic, fantastic, awesome. Turn your face even more this way. And one thing to notice that Sasha's eye, her right eye is a little bit smaller than her left eye. So that's why, you know, when she moves your face to my camera right, I think then we can maybe equalize those eyes a little bit more. If not, I can ask her to squint the left eye a little bit more to kind of equalize the sizes, okay? Fantastic. Push your forehead more toward me. Push it, push it, push it. Come on, slam it at forehead. That's fantastic. Good, 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 good. Now, give me a face like of a soldier from World War II. No, they were not always that serious. They had fun too during World War II. I mean, fantastic. Give me a face of Queen Elizabeth of England. No, that's not the Queen. Perfect, perfect, fantastic. Okay, coolness. So we have few headshots here. Obviously, this would take so much longer. There's a little more interaction, but that's kind of like the session flows. Now, I'm using the Westcott X Drop background, and I use the white one. But as you can see, since I didn't put any light on that background, it turns gray. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually put two FJ400s on that backdrop, and I'm gonna put them on power, I think, if I remember, I'm at like 4.5. So let me turn on my trigger. So they're already on. Here it is. So they're actually at 4.8, and I have group A, group B. So I can adjust them independently if I need to, okay? So I'm just gonna turn on the camera for a second to restart when I turn the trigger. Fantastic. Let me make sure that the camera is recognized. And it is perfect. Okay, so we can keep shooting. So one thing to avoid when you do white background is that the flashes are too powerful. So you have to bring the values of the white background to around 250. Don't go 255 or you know, because it's going to be pretty blown out, and that's how you create the flare into the camera and you start to losing details on the edge of the person that you photograph. Okay, so Sasha, give me one more time. Push your foot a bit more forward, and you're gonna tilt your face the other way. Perfect, fantastic, awesome. So this was a test just with a white background, so just to show you. Here it is. So if I move my mouse around, you can see that I'm at like 248, 250, which is not bad at all. Okay, and one thing that I do on my FJ400s, I put quarter CTO gel on them, so they match better the color temperature of my Cineflex lights. I run them at 5300 Kelvin, the Cineflex, so I put quarter CTO on the FJ400s to kind of equalize the white, so that, you know, otherwise the background will be a little bit too bright. I mean, too blue. That's what I meant. Okay, one more mistake that I wanted to mention is if you put the bottom light a little bit too bright. So right now I'm running the bottom light at half the power of the main light. So let's switch this one from power 12. I'm gonna move it to power 30. Okay, so that's basically now it's all even. So let's see what happens, you know, when I have too much uplighting, you know, on the person that I photograph. Okay, so perfect, fantastic. And tilt your face a little more this way. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, so she basically gets way too much, you know, up in bottom light. So let's compare these two. Oops. So the photo on the left, is beautifully lit, and the photo on the right is basically has too much uplighting, or filling from the bottom, and it just becomes way too lit from the bottom. So you can see that the bottom, the eye sockets from the bottom are way too bright compared to the rest of the skin. You can see the bottom of the nose, it's a little bit too bright as well. So basically we want, this is way too much. This one is, on the lower side, maybe I could bring it up a tiny bit, but this basically, it's, I used to think that this was cool, but over time I learned that this is actually not the best approach. So let's go back to maybe, let's see, we were at 12 before, so I'm gonna switch it to say 18. So I was at 12 before, and I'm gonna be at 18, so a little bit more. And then Sasha, turn your feet the other way now. Fantastic. And hand to the side, and straight spine like somebody's pulling you. Fantastic. Awesome. Awesome. And then tilt your face a little more this way for me, and move a little bit this way for me. Perfect. And a tiny step back. A tiny step. Perfect. And now push your forehead toward me. That's it. Fantastic. Okay, give me a Polish face, Sasha. How about a Russian face? We'll be a Russian. Oh, that's... One thing that I also like to do with my clients is to ask them to do a blowfish face. One, because it's a cool, fun face, but also because it stretches the muscles in her face. I mean, in my client's face. So Sasha, give me a good, nice blowfish face. More. I want more. Come on, push it forward. Push it forward. That's much better. Okay, good. So we have a good blowfish photo as well. So this was still. This is the Russian face, and I think the blowfish is still coming. So this is basically how we photograph the headshots for individual people. Sasha, come on over now. We're going to actually do the review of the photos. So when I go with after session, or doing when they change the outfits, I go with the photos, and we actually go one by one, and they tell me which ones is a maybe, which one is not. Once we mark, let's say this one is not bad, so I'm going to mark it, F1. Let's see, this one is not bad. This one is not bad. This nice smiling, and I love this one. Love this one, and it's blowfish is right away 5 stars for me. Okay, so now I'm going to filter it in with my 1 stars. And what I do, I'll say like, okay, Sasha, so between these 4, which ones you would like it to text to the next round? Which one do you prefer, Sasha? What do I recommend? Well, I have my favorite, so I'm going to say after you, but which one do you like the most?
Well, this is my mood right now, but...
Oh, you are? That angry? Okay, so let's 3 stars. I like this one. This is pretty cool.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so now if I go to 3 stars, and then I do the same for the white background, so which one on the white background do you prefer?
The second one.
The second one. Okay, so this is 3 stars or 4 stars. So now, and actually I made the mistake because I marked them all. So let me go back. So we didn't like the bottom 2. Okay.
Actually, can you keep it?
Which one? The bottom one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna mark it this. So only this one we're not selecting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now if I go 3 stars, so this is our selection, and basically, so now we have 6 photos. And as I work with the client, is this your final selection?
Yes.
If yes, then we take the payment for these 6 photos, and then we retouch them, and send them the final photos in a few days. So that basically covers the full cycle of an individual session. So again, EOS R with the Westcott trigger and the Air Direct from Tether Tools, and that gets transferred fast wirelessly to my laptop. Westcott Cineflex sliding, 3 lights, 1 by 2, and then 2 FJ400s, for the background, if you want white background. I like the variety, so I give gray and white. So this way, usually clients buy both options. And the session usually lasts I would say an hour and a half, maximum like 2 hours. And that's how we do it. So this is it. Thank you so much. Let's go back to the next setup. So this was our individual headshot session. When photographing on location, whether it's for smaller or higher volume, it's very important to properly pack all our gear. Properly packing everything prevents gear from getting damaged, but more importantly, allow us to quickly set up and break down our mobile studio. We do not want to spend hours making multiple trips to our car looking for various pieces of our equipment and then spend another 2-3 hours packing. So we put everything into 2 10-bar rolling cases and a laptop bag. We also use a rock and roller cart to transport our cases, and that cart is pretty light, sturdy, and folds down to a smaller size to fit into our car's trunk. We use a 10-bar air case attaché 3220 for all our camera and lighting gear, and a 10-bar 48 rolling case for all the license and softboxes. Now, when it comes to lighting, using the Westcott Cineflex kit, the ambient light can affect the results. Therefore, when we are on location to photograph teams or small companies, we bring the FJ400 strobes with 3 strip boxes to mimic the Cineflex lighting. We use 2 1x3 rapid boxes and then one 1x2 rapid box. This allows me to eliminate any ambient light that an office may have, shoot at a higher f-stop, usually f8, and make a light a little bit more pleasant to the eyes of the person that I photograph. Now, in terms of the workflow, it's similar to the one we follow for individual sessions, except the client does not automatically book the session online. Everything else stays the same. So, now let's go and do the setup with the 3 strip boxes. When we go on location to photograph a few people, I would say up to maybe 10 minutes per person, we usually bring the FJ400, simulating the same setup that we had with Cineflex, but now with the strobes. The reason is that when we use the Cineflex light, because it's a constant light, the final results of the photos that we take are more impacted by the available light, the ambient light that's already in this room. So for example, here, I was able to turn on these lights to my gallery because I'm using the strobes, so I can shoot at f8 at ISO 100 and really kill this light completely. There's absolutely no impact on this photo that I'm going to take of Sasha. So when we go on location, I bring the strobes because I don't know what kind of lighting situation I'm going to encounter when I go on location. So that's why, we're going to use the strobes, but the setup is very similar. So we have the main light kind of, across. This is the 1x3 rapid box strip. And then we have another 1x3, the vertical one. And then we have 1x2 here in the bottom as a fill. And again, these guys are at right now 4.8. Let me just triple check. Yeah, 4.8. And then the bottom one is at 2.4. So half the power of the 2 main ones. So from the tethering perspective, I can still use the wireless air direct tethering to my laptop if I don't want to have some extra cables in the office, or I can just use the USB cable if I want slightly faster transfer. So if time is really of essence, if I have a higher pace, then I may use the cable because the transfer still is a little bit faster than the wireless method. But most of the time I use the wireless air direct. I use the same lens. I should use the same camera. The settings though change right now. So before I was shooting at f5, 1/60th of a second, and ISO 200. The reason I was doing it because I didn't want to have those Cineflex too strong because they will hurt the eyes of the person that I photograph. Here, because the lights, I just turn on the modeling just for the video purposes, but normally I will have the modeling light off. I'm shooting at f8, 1/60th of a second, and ISO 100. So really, I'm just relying primarily on the flash of the strobe to get the proper exposure. Okay, so let's get started. Again, I'm doing tethering to capture one. So everything is kind of similar. The way that I interact, with the corporate people or the larger group, obviously I don't have a full hour to get all the expressions. So I definitely teach them, so Sasha, again, you're gonna be pushing your forehead forward like this. And then the lower eyelid, you're gonna be, squinting tiny bit more. Perfect. Okay, that's like that. And then I'm gonna do maybe a few expressions, but I'm going more for the variety of headshots. So I'm gonna try different angles and versus the full spectrum of emotions and faces, okay? So chin down a bit more for me. Perfect. And push the forehead a bit more for me. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, give me a face like you're selling strawberries this time. Do you love strawberries? Yes? Is it a yes, Sasha, or no? Yeah. Perfect, perfect. Turn your face a little bit more this way. Your feet, turn your face slightly this way. Awesome. And touch your face a little more this way. Fantastic. Like imagine like you're chewing gum, but really chewing. Like, just feel the flavor. What's your favorite flavor of chewing gum? Water. Perfect, perfect. Push it forward, push it forward. Push your forward. That's it. Fantastic. Okay, turn your feet the other way now. Okay, and you're gonna put your weight on the left foot. Fantastic. Straight spine again. And then touch your face slightly this way. Perfect. Push your forward a bit more toward me. That's it. Fantastic. Give me the squint in your eye. Move actually a tiny bit this direction. So the reason I'm asking is because the half of, a little bit her head was cut by the strip box. So I want to make sure that the strip boxes are not cutting into the face of Sasha. Perfect. A tiny bit this way still. Perfect, perfect, man. Fantastic. Push your forward more toward me. Push it, and chin down a bit more. You got it there. Okay, perfect. Now give me a face like you just won a good account in your business and you just make a good sale. A nice bonus, before Christmas. I love it, love it. Yeah, give me the eyebrow action. Bring us. That's it. You got it. Give me the other eyebrow up, not the other one. Perfect. So sometimes I try to catch the kind of expressions in between and see what we're getting. And basically, once I finish photographing, I'll invite them again to my laptop, and then we're gonna choose the photos together. Since I have 3 FJ400s here in the setup, I don't have the extra 2 on the on the X drop to make it white or gray. So right now I'm using just medium gray. If the client requests a white background, the first question I ask is how much space I'm gonna have to photograph. Because if I have a very small space, then the white background will not work because there'll be way too much flare. So what I usually do is I photograph against a gray background or almost gray. I put maybe 1 light, but not too much. And then in post-production, I make it actually white. So as long as you shoot against gray background, it's relatively easy to change it to white. If you have white background, it's much harder to change it into darker gray or medium gray. Okay, so Sasha, come on over. Let's choose your photo. Sorry, the last one is with closed eyes, so we're not gonna select this one. Okay, so where were we here? So let's go to the beginning, and so let's see this one. So I love this one. Love this one. This is actually nice and natural. It's a little bit too serious. This is actually not bad. Right? What do you think?
Love it.
Yeah. This is cool. Kind of. It's a little bit too much of a smile. It's actually not bad. Love this one. This is very powerful. And let me see this one. This is pretty cool too. What do you think of this one?
Yeah.
Yep. And when I go with a real client, I usually let them drive it more. But for this purposes, since I know Sasha's best angle, so I can make the decision. For her what I think looks the best. Okay, so let's see what we have now. Okay, so from this set we have 2, 4, 6. Okay, so I can actually select all 6. And Sasha, which ones are your favorite here? Yeah, I love this one. This is actually fantastic. So, any other one that you like here?
These are
one of these? I like this one. This is more kind of like a nice, genuine, like a approachable aspect. Okay, So we selected, let's see from this set, we should have 2 photos. Perfect. So these 2, and then, from the previous set, this is what we have so far. Fantastic. So we have 6 photos. So this was low to medium volume on location. So when we go to a company, either a business meeting or just, a company's headshots, this is usually the setup that we have. Because this setup is more specific to a person, the height, etc. So we need to make the adjustments for each person individually. So we need a little bit more time because we adjust the lights for every person. Once we switch to the high volume, which I'll show you in the next setup, then we need a light setup that is more forgiving in terms of, or requiring less adjustments per person. But this is the on location for a low to medium volume. Let's go back to the presentation. So this is how we photograph smaller volume business engagements. If we are asked to photograph 12 to 30 people per hour, which means we have about 5 minutes or less per person, we need to make an adjustment to our lighting. With such a high volume, we need to be extremely efficient with our lighting, posing, and processing. So here is our adjusted workflow for high volume headshots. The key points are: 1. We photograph with Canon 5D Mark IV and shoot either small or medium RAW. We use smaller RAWs to transfer those files faster. Currently, EOS R does not have an option for smaller size RAWs. 2. Lighting is changed to 2 rapid box octas. This gives me larger areas with good light, so I don't have to make frequent adjustments for people's height. 3. Setup with 2 softboxes reduces light reflections in glasses, even for those that don't have anti-reflective coating. 4. We make between 6 to 10 photos per person and want to make sure that every photo is different so that we can provide variety. 5. Once we finish photographing a person, we export photos and transfer them to our tablet where each person can select his or her favorite photos and send them to their email address or through a text message. So let's go to a simulation of a high volume setup now. When photographing high volume headshots, and when I say high volume, it's about 5 minutes or less per person. With the highest pace that we can photograph, it's about 2 minutes per person, so it's about up to 30 people per hour. So there are a few things that we change when we photograph high volume. As you can see, first we change the lighting setup. So we switch from the Cineflex or the 3 FJ400s with strip boxes to 2 FJ400s, and they are in large and extra large octas here, the rapid box octas. And then I also include the soft lighter from below, and I use the silver one. This setup gives me a pretty big sweet spot where the light is, I would say, decent or good for various heights, of people coming in, different skin complexion, whether they have glasses or not, and whether those glasses have anti-reflective coating or not. Because these lights are pretty feathered, so they're like almost 90 degree from the camera, this light setup is very effective for not having any light reflection in the glasses, because I don't really have time to maneuver those lights for individual person. I have to have a solution that is good for large number of people. I mentioned before that for high volume we use the 5D Mark IV versus the EOS R. Here I'm still using the EOS R only because I use the 5D camera right here for shooting this video. So that's why I didn't want to switch everything. So I continue using the EOS R, but normally with the high volume, I use the 5D Mark IV and reduce the raw file size from a full size to either medium or small so that I can transfer the files faster. Now, for high volume also, we switch from the air direct to cable because at this point, as you can imagine, speed is very important. So, I need to transfer those files as fast as possible to my computer, and then I need to export them to the cloud so that they can be visible on the tablet. So in terms of how I photograph high volume, when somebody comes in, I say, hi, what's your name? I may ask where they're from, and then really minimal direction in terms of pushing the forehead forward. And sometimes only in the really extreme kind of situation when somebody's eyes are naturally wide open too much, I'll tell them to squint a little bit with their lower eyelids. The reason, because I don't have time to really tweak those little things. So I really want to make sure that they have few headshots that are good, and then just we can move on. So Sasha, if Sasha came, I didn't know her, I probably wouldn't tell her to squint her eyes, because her eyes are already a little bit narrow. So I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't waste time telling her that, to squint the eyes, on top of what she does already naturally. Okay. And then per person, I usually photograph, don't give me the big eyes, Sasha. So usually per person, I photograph, depending on the amount of time. If I have 2 minutes per person, I really do 6 frames per person. And that's really it. And then I take the next person. If I have like maybe 7 or 8, 10 minutes, I'll do maybe 10, 15 photos per person. Okay. But I still tether to capture one. It's just with the cable now. I have the trigger for my for the FJ400 here. Still use the 70-200 lens, f8, ISO 100, and I have the shutter speed 125 right now. Okay, so Sasha, you're gonna be hand to the side, straight. You're gonna be stand straight to me, and push your foot a little bit more to me. Perfect, fantastic, coolness. Turn your face a little more this way, and perfect. Turn your feet now this way, and you're gonna turn your face toward me a little bit more. Perfect, fantastic. And tilt your face tiny bit more this way. Awesome, perfect. Turn your shoulders a little bit more toward me. Give me a little bit like a 10% smile. Perfect, fantastic. Okay, turn your feet the other way now. You're gonna put your weight on the left foot. Fantastic, straight spine. Awesome, awesome. And tilt your face tiny bit more this way. Fantastic. Give me 10% smile on this one. Awesome. How about 25? Awesome. Fantastic. And then turn your feet tiny bit toward me, and that will be the last one. Awesome. Okay, so that will be like the whole session for one person if we do high volume. The big difference now, once they're done, they don't come to my computer to review the photos. They actually go to the kiosk, and when they select the photos, and they can send them those headshots to themselves to their email address or text message. The reason, how it all works, when I go to my to capture one, I see the photo. So let's say I'm doing Sasha's D. So I shot, how many photos did I shoot? 9 photos, for Sasha this time. So basically in my export, I have a preset, like for example, when we photographed 10K headshot, I will have this already set up to a specific hot folder, to export. I do Control D to export them. That hot folder is monitored by simple Photoshop application that is responsible for uploading those photos to the cloud and then distributed to the pages on the tablets that we have on the site. And that the functionality to email or text message is basically provided by simple Photoshop. But there are a few other applications that do similar things, so it doesn't really matter what application you use as long as you have the functionality to instantly transfer those files from your camera to the computer with a tethering cable. Use Capture One to capture those photos and process them quickly, and then export them to the hot folder. So this is really it. I mean, I'm not the most important thing is the lighting is a little bit different. It's a little bit. It's more forgiving, so it's a little bit more flat. But otherwise, it's actually still pretty good, solid quality of headshots that people love. And, that's how we photograph high volume up to, we photograph, Sasha, how many? I think maximum like 1,000 people we photograph in 3 days. That was, I think, our biggest conference. So that was solid 8-hour work for both of us for 3 days to photograph 1,000 people. So again, this is it, high volume. And then let's go back to the final note to my presentation. So these are our 3 main workflows for headshots, whether an individual session, low to medium volume on location, or a high volume at big business meetings or conferences. Please stay connected with us, and we are always happy to help. If you have any questions right after this video, there will be a live Q&A time, and we can answer any questions you have. Thank you so much.